This is Nate Jinkens, Politicking Our Way. Just want to inform you that everything that I say, feel, and deliver, totally mine. They don't belong to acrossthefader.us or .com or anyone else. Even Politicking Our Way is a show. They are just mine. All mine, just me. Yeah, I said it. His right to be aggressive in the name of God. Nowhere in the Bible, nowhere in any religion did I see that God needed help with boots in the field. Okay? That is a personal spiritual awakening as I know it to be. So let's talk about he was asked about his plan for ISIS. Again, he never answered the question. As Donald and all his surrogates do very well, when asked a question, they divert it back to what the Democrats are not doing, what Hillary's policies aren't. Guess what? I'm tired of you guys talking about her 30 years of government service. For one, in those 30 years, she was not a senator for 30 years. She was not the Secretary of State for 30 years. So let's talk about where she had some power to make some moves. As a senator from New York, her job was to look out for the good citizens of the state and the constituents that she served, also to be a voice in the vote for America as a whole. As the Secretary of State, her job was to promote our way of living, thinking, and judgment over the entire world, representing the United States of America. Not as a policy maker, she was a cabinet maker, an advisor to the president in regards of state matters. Okay? Let's understand the rhetoric. That's stupidity that you keep bringing up a 30-year record. If you did, you have to go all the way back to where she was a lawyer for children's rights. You're not doing any of that because you're absurd and you're an idiot, Mr. Trump. So let's get back to your plan for ISIS. You say you're not going to tell us. You know why you're not going to tell us? Because you don't have one. And you talk about this invading of Mosul that's been on the news here lately. We've told the people in Mosul that we're coming. Yes, we did. Did it ever occur to you that civilian casualties may be minimized because they know we're coming? Did it ever occur to you that the leaders that are skirting out of that town that now we have surrounded will be captured and they're leaving? You're saying, well, they say they're coming, so as a leader, I'm going to get out of here. That's the plan. We want you to leave so we can catch you without occurring all those civilian casualties, you idiot. Don't you understand how media works? Aren't you a part of the media? Oh, my bad. You're fired. That's your top line. That's all you know. That's your presidential stand. The Apprentice. Man, please. You talk about your plans for military and you're going forward with the Pentagon to put all of these old heads, and I call them old heads, retired individuals in your lineup of advisors so it can advise you how to do war the old way, the way that we lost in Vietnam, the way that we got our butts kicked before. Is that going to work today? There's no technologists there. There's no strategists there. From a military perspective, man, you're 2-3 decades behind, Donald Trump. If you're going to get somebody to help you, get the guys that's in it today. Get the guys that are abating aggression, that are defending the Constitution as we know it. The other thing they talk about was the Veterans Administration. Yeah, it was terrible under the Obama administration. It was even terrible under Bush. But it really started being a problem under Reaganomics. You remember the old trickle-down theory? You know, give that top 1% all the money and they'll create all these jobs. They'll invest in government. None of that shit happened. I've yet to see one rich bearcat get a hoard of money and trickle it down to anyone but himself. Very seldom do they even want their kids to inherit the wealth. Like you, Donald. You trickling down to your children. Come on, man, let's get real. Trickle-down economics never helped, never happened, never worked. You talked about you're going to allow these guys who stand in line to go get health care at private and other government institutions. That is a great policy. But I think you stole that from Obama because he did say that a few weeks back. Come on, Donald, that's not original. Hillary said that 2 weeks back. Donald, that again is not original. But what about universal health care? If we had universal health care, our veterans wouldn't have to worry about going to the VA. They can go anywhere like everyone else. Maybe the VA hospitals wouldn't be so overloaded and then they can serve these people properly. if we had universal health care. Talk to your Republican Party about how they stopped universal health care, how they kept it away from the United States of America, how it's being done in the UK and other places successfully. They don't have veterans with all these issues. Okay, you talked about the mental health issue. Remember back in trigonometrics, that Reaganomics trickled it down. And then George Bush's 1,000 points of light. Remember how they said the state should take over their mental health stuff and it should be done by local agencies and institutions who would better serve it? They didn't get the funding, son. It didn't happen. You released everyone out of the established mental health hospitals and you put these homeless vets on the street. That was Reaganomics, buddy. That's what you're trying to return us to. And you talk about PTSD and you had some clown on there talk about he's been cured from PTSD. Dude, I'm a mental health professional. Cure does not exist for those mental maladies. You go into what's called recovery, which means you're in a constant abatement of these serious debilitating events. There's no cure for PTSD. There's no cure for schizophrenia. There are services, there are treatments, but a cure, there's no shot in the arm that goes away. Stop being a moron, Donald Trump. And stop bringing morons in front of the United States public and thinking that we're stupid as second graders. Okay? Mental health is a big issue. One of the biggest issues for our guys coming back. I mean, they went over there as kids and they seen some deplorable, and that's right, the word, as Hillary puts it, some deplorable events. They saw mutilations. They saw their good friends being dismembered. They saw people getting killed. They saw children, women being slaughtered by the thousands. They saw things that you and I couldn't even imagine. But by the way, you, Mr. Donald Trump, skirted out of because you're a top 1%er. Okay? You didn't go when everyone else was getting drafted. So when you talk about the military, I tune you out because you're an idiot, a buffoon in that. Your scared ass self. Here's the thing. When a sucker speaks about being strong about something he's scared about, he's still a sucker. And he's getting his information from the bully. And now he's trying to bully America into thinking he cares about the military. If he cared about it, why didn't he join it? Why didn't his sons enlist? Okay? So when we talk about mental health, let's talk about the things that really are there, man. Let's talk about the lack of services, the lack of funding. Let's talk about how Congress, your Republican-led Congress and Senate, blocked all those funds during the Obama administration. Let's talk about how healthcare had to be chopped up, how Obamacare, as we know the Affordable Act to be labeled, was chopped up just to get it passed by your guys, the Republican Party. Fueled and funded by your guys, that religious right, those zealous evangelists that you speak to so often, by that basket of deplorables. That, by the way, is full of PTSD, schizophrenia, and other mental illness as we watch your basket of deplorables attack other nonpartisan demonstrators in some of your rallies. Come on, be real. Then you talked about having a politically correct military, and I was wondering where you were going with that. Then you brought it home. You talked about gays and lesbians in the military. You talked about gender-specific deployments in the military. You talked about how some women aren't apt to do certain jobs. I guess cooking, cleaning, and preparing the food was already taken. So we're going to go back to the 50s now, where women got to be relegated to the kitchen and bearing children. They, of course, couldn't serve in the military. They couldn't be smart enough to be a part of cybersecurity. They couldn't be healthy enough or strong enough to be on the front line. Of course not, Donald Trump. Not in your world, you misogynistic, bigot, idiot. Yeah, I said it. I labeled you that because that's what you label yourself through your rhetoric. You talked about gays and lesbians, and you talked about how one of the people in the attendance was demoted and almost kicked out of the military because he had a lesbian commander. What does her idea of who she labels herself to be in her sexual preference have to do with leading? There's been gays in the military for years, Mr. Trump. Some were drafted and a lot of them enlisted, and a lot of them dodged the draft, Mr. Trump. A lot of them. Probably you. Okay? So let's just talk about equality across the board. If you want in, you're in. If you want out, you don't get in. Until we draft you in, you have the right to choose your own path to or for the military. But I don't believe one person with their sexual identity, their religious background, their creed or color, made a decision to join our military and take that oath to defend our Constitution, the same oath, by the way, that you'll take if elected president. Read the Constitution first, darling, because you need to know what you're signing up for. Who takes that oath, did that because they were black, white, green, yellow, gay, lesbian. They didn't do that for those causes. They did it for the oath that they take, to protect and serve the rights to be an American. Don't. And if you think anything other than that, you're doing a great disservice to our men and women in uniform. The last thing I want to talk about, and I stated early, is our knowledge of the Constitution. Mr. Trump, you stated when one of these military persons asked you about the Johnson Amendment, you kind of said, well, I heard about that. I heard about it. You're about to be the president, dude. You should know about it. Now you're going to make it a part of the GOP platform because you heard about it. Well, United States citizens, let's talk about the Johnson Amendment as it was labeled. It actually was put forth by Lyndon Baines Johnson before he became president. It said, and I almost quote, and this was back in 1954, that churches as a whole or as a congregation should not endorse any one candidate. It's not a freedom of speech issue as you tried to make it, Mr. Trump, with those veiled attempts of those idiots that you paraded in front of the camera saying they wouldn't let me pray before my football game. They wouldn't let me pray before we went to battle. They wouldn't let me use God in the retirement speech that I had at the military academy. That has nothing, not a damn thing to do with the Johnson Act, you idiot. The Johnson Act clearly stated that if you're going to be labeled